Malaysia that eventually you'll be able to travel, right, and move around. Yeah. Well, good question. People so far who have logged in are people concerned about social issues. The very first session we had on collective impact about, you cannot just solve a problem by saying, yeah, I give you the money, but there's a whole process. So social workers are one, but there also could be people who, have heard about this. There have been a lot of online publicity. Henry, she's asking who are the other viewers, what's the demographics of the people or psychographics of the people?
Dear amazing you.
Every individual wants to experience love,
general public
care,
as well.
meaning, and purpose in life through supportive and nurturing relationships.
Our calling is to change stories and transform lives.
We are no more than ordinary people who aspire to do no less than extraordinary things. At the heart of it all, we are connected with one another.
Everyone is community and community is everyone.
Everyone has a voice and every voice should be heard.
With compassion, empathy, and enthusiasm, we will journey with you to make sense of life's experience.
Together, we make the present a hopeful place.
Love, joy, and peace. LCCS. Dear amazing you.
Every individual wants to experience love, care, meaning, and purpose in life through supportive and nurturing relationships.
Our calling is to change stories and transform lives.
We are no more than ordinary people who aspire to do no less than extraordinary things. At the heart of it all, we are connected with one another.
Everyone is community and community is everyone.
Everyone has a voice and every voice should be heard.
With compassion, empathy, and enthusiasm, we will journey with you to make sense of life's experience.
Together, we make the present a hopeful place.
Love, joy, and peace. LCCS. Dear amazing you.
Every individual wants to experience love, care, meaning, and purpose in life through supportive and nurturing relationships.
Our calling is to change stories and transform lives.
We are no more than ordinary people who aspire to do no less than extraordinary things. At the heart of it all, we are connected with one another.
Everyone is community and community is everyone.
Everyone has a voice and every voice should be heard.
With compassion, empathy, and enthusiasm, we will journey with you to make sense of life's experience.
Together, we make the present a hopeful place.
Love, joy, and peace. LCCS.
Dear Amazing You,
Every individual
Okay, now I
wants
hear
to
another corporate
experience
video.
love, care, meaning, and purpose in life through supportive and nurturing relationships.
Our calling is to change stories and transform lives.
We are no more than ordinary people who aspire to do no less than extraordinary things.
723.
at the heart of it all,
Thank you. Yeah, I'll
we are
put it below.
connected with one another.
Everyone is community and community is everyone.
Huh? Oh, sure,
Everyone
sure.
has a
Yeah.
voice, and
Yeah,
every
plain
voice
colour, yeah.
should be heard.
Careful.
With compassion, empathy, and enthusiasm, we will journey with you to make sense of life's experience.
Together, we make the present a hopeful place.
Love, Joy, and Peace, LCCS.
Dear Amazing You,
Every individual wants to experience love, care, meaning, and purpose in life through supportive and nurturing relationships.
Oh no, yeah.
Our
Don't worry,
calling
I trust
is
you.
to change stories and transform lives.
This part is okay, right? No. Yeah, maybe
We are no
just
more than
slightly
ordinary people
to the right.
who
I mean,
aspire
the
to
side
do
a
no
little bit,
less than extraordinary things.
Yeah, then also.
at the heart of it all, we are
The
connected
phone is
with one
just to
another.
check clock. You sure? You sure you don't need
Everyone is community and community is
Yeah.
everyone.
it? Yeah.
Everyone has a
But that's one
voice,
of your
and every
books, I
voice
guess.
should be heard.
With compassion,
Oh.
empathy, and enthusiasm,
So that's
we will
the
journey
creative
with you
program.
to make sense of life's
Well, you can always
experience.
change the display every session that you have.
Together,
Yeah.
we make the present a hopeful place.
725.
Love, Joy, and Peace, LCCS.
Hello and welcome to REALink, which promotes real conversations about pertinent concerns. REALink is a virtual conversation series where we will be engaging our special guests and you, of course, to explore various topics that matter in our society. The theme for this year, 2021, Rebuilding the Community, where we seek to reconnect with communities that have been adversely affected by societal issues and explore what has and can be done to break the cycle of hurt. Now, REALink is also a campaign to raise funds to support the work that is being done by the Lutheran Community Care Services, otherwise simply known as LCCS. And as a non-profit social service agency, LCCS has been actively engaging and empowering individuals and families to build and sustain those relationships. Now, focusing on restorative practices, LCCS has served and continues to serve families, schools, institutes, residential homes, and various organizations to restore relationships that have been harmed and, of course, connect communities together. LCCS is also a full member of the National Council of Social Service in Singapore and has been accorded Institution of a Public Character status. Now, I'm Augustine Aswan, and I'll be both moderating and emceeing this session for today. And of course, it's my real privilege to be part of the REALink Conversation series and the online fundraising campaign that is running alongside. And of course, we have special speakers lined up for you. Today is Ms. Red Hong Yi, who's coming to us live from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And so thank you very much, Red, for being with us, and welcome to all in the REALink Virtual Conversation series. Now, today's second session in our series is titled Breaking Down Anti-Asian Antics. And every fortnight at this time, on a Friday evening, we will be featuring local and international speakers who will share their perspectives on 12 different topics. And we're running it from June all the way till November. And here at LCCS, we aim to create a safe and meaningful space for our speakers to talk about what matters. Which is why we'd like to involve you. Definitely, you are very important to us. We would like you to stay connected with LCCS and with all of us here in this community. Today's panel discussion is titled Breaking Down Anti-Asian Antics, and this is where we'd like to involve you. Do take a moment to write your comments, your thoughts in the section below, and also we'd like to seek your kind-hearted donation. Use the QR code at the bottom of the screen, as well as in the comment section. You'll be glad to know that your donation is eligible for a one-to-one matching, as REALink is part of the Tote Board Enhanced Fundraising Program. All donations above $10 are also eligible for a 250% tax deduction. And now, without further ado, let's kick off our session in the REALink LCCS 2021 Virtual Conversation Series. My pleasure to welcome on board Ms. Red Hong Yi. Over to you, Red.
Thank you so much, Augustine. And I'm really honored to be speaking here from my living room in KL to everyone in Singapore and beyond. And I'm really honored to be able to talk about, I guess, my artworks today and in regards to the topic that we're going to be talking about. If I could start my slides, that would be great. I have a total of 80 slides. It's quite a bit. So we're going to run through it every 15 seconds. So I guess let's go next. Next slide. Yeah. So a bit of my background. I'm from Sabah, Malaysia. That's the beautiful island of Borneo. And growing up, I've always been interested in art. Next. And so I've always been interested in art because of the way it can, I guess, express and communicate and just kind of emotionally touch people. But eventually I went into architecture because I felt that there was a more secure path for my future. And also my parents were really worried. They said, don't be an artist, you're probably going to struggle. But there was always something magical about art and the way it can communicate and touch people that I loved. Next. So after graduating from architecture school in Australia, I've spent about 9, almost 10 years in Australia. I moved to Shanghai because I couldn't find a job in Australia. It was the construction, it was the economic downturn at the time. And when I applied to China, I had a lot of replies, especially in Shanghai. So I decided to move there. And my dad's actually originally from Shanghai. Next. And you might know Shanghai as this, energetic city, but what I really loved were the people there. And before going to China, I also had, I guess, preconceptions about moving to China and about living there. And I also had a lot of, I guess, people come up to me and go, "Don't move there. It's like a super dog world. You're like this shy person. You're probably gonna get like mauled over by people there." And that was true in the sense. The first time I took a bus, I got pushed out of the bus because everyone squeezed in there, and it made me realize that this is a city of 25 million people in one city. It was survival of the fittest. Next. And next slide, please. And yeah, so there were things like this that really fascinated me because I've never seen, I guess, DHL on a bike before, kind of like wrapped around like this. So it really made me realize that life is different here, and I should adapt to the culture here. I should understand the I guess the history and background of people here. I've never seen furniture stacked this way. I've never seen so much objects sold in markets before. Next. And I think it was really just sweet to see people live their lives there. And like this elderly couple who was cycling. Shanghai has a lot of cyclists, and miraculously, I think the city kind of still works. Traffic still works despite it being only like almost 25 million people. There were things like dog parks like this that I would see in the middle dog meets in the middle of the city. And what I also loved were communities like this. I actually lived here while I was living in Shanghai. This is a community of over 100 years, and it's constantly changing the way they use space. If you see that Chinese word, it means Thai, which means demolish. You see this in the city a lot because Shanghai keeps on changing. There's new developments going on. Next. And I got to live with she's now 95 years old, still really healthy. She was 88 at the time, in this old house. And I think she really taught me a lot about life and I guess people there. In the morning, this compound would be turned into a market. In the afternoon, people would be playing mahjong. And slowly, I think it really made me feel very connected to the people there. Despite, I think, people being a lot more, probably aggressive when it comes to even fighting for taxis and buses and things like that. So I did an art project. It's called No Pets Allowed. In some of these laneways, dogs are not allowed. And so I cut up a silhouette of a dog and then put it there. And when people walked past, I took a photo. This was my grand auntie. So I guess this was a way to get to know the local community and to kind of see a little bit of fun and playfulness in getting to know people there. This is a man walking past and he looked like he was walking a poodle. Next. And then this was another man walking a dachshund. And then next. And then a boy walking, I guess, a bunch of dogs. So I guess this was just like a fun little project because I felt really inspired and I really wanted to get to know people there. The other project that I did was a project to, I guess, profile personalities that appeared on the media a lot. And at that time, Yao Ming was in the media because he had just retired from the NBA. And I thought, because I wanted to get out of my creative comforts, I wanted to use objects that had a connection with these portraits that I was drawing. So I chose an object, basketball, and dipped it in red paint and painted it into a portrait of Yao Ming. If you go the next, I guess, this slide and the next slide. So I dribbled it into a portrait of Yao Ming, put it up online. It was a 2-minute time-lapse video. And before I knew it, it kind of got circulated around the media a lot. And I suddenly had a following. But the reason why I wanted to discover these objects and also profile these Chinese people was because I felt that, I guess I felt that media within China and outside China was very different. A lot of my friends, or even myself before moving to China, I didn't know what was going on inside. And similarly, inside China, it felt like it was very disconnected. And perhaps that's why there's a lot of, I guess, misunderstandings or misconceptions as well. So this was a piece which I kind of dedicated to Jay Chou, because a lot of my colleagues at the time were listening to Jay Chou at work. And it's inspired by one of his songs, 不能说的秘密, and it talks about him drinking a cold cup of coffee, thinking about his ex. So what I do is I try to use ordinary items and I try to flip it around or rearrange it or present it differently so that people can see ordinary items around us with fresh eyes. I think sometimes we get blinded by things around us because we've gotten so used to it. So this was a challenge for me to explore something I'm familiar with, which is a coffee cup and coffee. And I stamped it. And after, I think, about 3 tries, that's 3 weekends, it took me 10 hours each time. An image of Jay Chou finally appeared. You can see all this on YouTube. This is a large-scale painting, but it really took quite a few tries to get right. The first couple of times, it didn't even look like him. And I posted it online. And what I really loved about posting it online was that people from Norway or South Africa and all that were commenting and going, oh, I'd love to check out his music. I've not heard of him before. He's huge in Asia, but in some other parts of the world, they've probably not even heard of him before. This was a project dedicated to Zhang Yimou, a Chinese filmmaker who directed projects like the Beijing Olympics and the House of Flying Daggers. He uses a lot of bamboo elements and costumes in his movies, and I really love and admire his work. And I wanted to use this scene as my inspiration. And this is how people in Shanghai, in little laneways, hang up their laundry. They poke shirts through the bamboo poles and put it out their windows. And the first time we moved there, I was like, wow, I've never seen this before. And yeah, my grand auntie was like, oh, I don't get your fascination. But again, I think it's one of those things where if you're so used to seeing the same thing, you don't get fascinated by it. But if you see things done differently, it's just really fascinating. So with my very humble architecture graduate salary, I bought a bunch of socks from the local sample markets and rearranged them in a way that I thought was interesting. And so that was what I did. I pinned them on all 4 sides, and then I hung it off a bamboo pole, as you can see in the next slide. And this was this was done over 2 weeks. I think after work, after 6, I would start tying these things together. And eventually my colleagues noticed what I was doing, and they were very supportive. Even my boss at the time was very supportive of my projects. And I installed this in a little laneway in Shanghai. And before I knew it, I had people come up to me, my neighbors who I've never talked to before. The community there came up to me, offered to help me. I told them there's no goal to this. I'm just doing this for fun. But I think they were just intrigued, and they helped me install it even. And I think initially I was quite annoyed because I wanted to do this myself. But eventually I realized that, hey, this is a community project, and no one's like forcing them to do that, but they willingly want to do it. And I think that's the power of art. Art connects people in a way that no data number can. And there's something magical about that. And that's really how I got to know the community that way. And after posting these artworks online, I had an interesting email come in one day, and it was from Jackie Chan. And I think he saw a couple of my videos online, and he asked if I could create a piece for him. So it was pretty surreal. I got to meet him in his office, and after a bit of discussions, we decided to create his piece with bamboo chopsticks. So I quit my job at the time. Me and a friend, Aggie, we moved down to the south of China, collected a bunch of chopsticks. This is Aggie's mother's village. She lives in a bamboo village, bamboo forest in Zhejiang. And for 2 weeks, we just tied chopsticks with 20 ladies. And after that, we patched it up and brought it up to Beijing. and I got to present it to Jackie. He was happy about it. I was, it was a huge honor. And we turned it into, I think, a 2 or 3 minute long video that you can see on YouTube as well. Those characters there form the word long, which means dragon in Chinese. But what I realized was that I think, looking back, I think I kind of missed the point of this project. I was fixated in creating such a perfect piece or an impressive piece that I forgot that the magical moments was really in connecting with the ladies and showing what it was like to get to know the ladies in the village, because that was the most memorable part of the project for me. So I guess in between those few years, 6 years, I think after leaving China, I lived in many different cities. But last year I found myself in lockdown, and I couldn't travel anymore. And I had a visa to go to the US to work. I told my friends I was really upset that I couldn't travel, and they said, don't come over. The virus situation is bad, and also the racism situation is really bad against Asians right now. So I created this series called I Am Not a Virus, with objects that I could find in my pantry. This one's actually a Singaporean student in London who was assaulted for his ethnicity. You guys might be more familiar with it because he's from Singapore. The previous one was a 3-year-old girl in Texas who was assaulted also because of her skin, the color of her skin. This is Amanda Nguyen, who is really inspiring to me. She's really spoken out about racism against Asians. This is made of goji berries. So the reason why I used all these, I guess, food items was because in lockdown, the art supply shops were closed. So I just kind of used anything I could find in my pantry. This is an elderly lady in New York who was assaulted. This was made of broken eggshells. There are a few more on my Instagram that I've not posted here. During that time, there was a lot of protests in regards to Black Lives Matter as well. So there was a piece dedicated to it. When the lockdown lifted a little bit, I went to, I guess, get some art materials, and I did this piece that I can keep for a longer time. And I slipped in newspaper clippings about what was happening at the time. Because I believe art is also to inform future generations about current issues, about what we're going through as humans today. When we look at art in museums, it shows us what people were going through at the time. So this is my art piece to, I guess, inform future generations, hopefully, about how far humanity has come. Because I believe that we would progress, and we can be better than what we are today in the future. So these are newspaper clippings and portraits of assault victims during that time because of, I guess, because of what was happening in regards to the pandemic. So I'd like to bring this project, talk about this project. This was a recent piece that I did. It does not address racism. It addresses climate change. But I was really honored to create this. But I thought I'd talk about, I guess, behind the scenes and the thoughts that we had and why we came to this image. If we can go next. This is DW, the creative director of Time, and that's me. He contacted me in February, I think, and we went through different concepts about what to do with the cover. And we decided to use a world map because everyone's involved when it comes to climate change. Just like racism, I think everyone has to be involved as well. So we created this piece with green-tipped matchsticks to represent trees. And for 2 weeks, we just stuck in matchsticks. And it was really, really tiring. But we knew from the start that we were going to burn it down. But we didn't know which image to choose for the cover. It could be, pre-burning like this, or probably burning it a little bit, as you can see in the next slide. Yeah, so this was when we first lit it up. Or in the next one that you'll see, it's kind of all really fiery and scary. So initially in our proposal, we thought about this one, but we thought it would be too bleak and too horrifying for people to want to take action. I guess the goal of the cover is to also to show the urgency of climate change, but also make people feel like they're in control to take actions to change the way we navigate climate change. So we chose this photo in the end. So I think it's important when it comes to, I guess, wanting to drive social change or wanting to drive change to also inspire and inject hope in what we do. This is a piece that I'm working right now. These are war veterans of Malaysia. There's 2 war veterans in this. We are using this project to, I guess, drive, to encourage unity among races in Malaysia, because Malaysia is made of different types of races that really fought for this country, for this land. So you're seeing a mock-up. This is not a real piece yet. This is done on Photoshop, but we're going to make this. This is an old photo from the 60s of war veterans, and we're making it from soil, from the war sites, from the battle zones. And we're not going to distinguish who's who, so that it shows that everyone is the same when it comes to fighting for the country. So the next part of this talk, I thought I'd talk about art that have inspired me in different ways on different issues. I think I spoke to Augustine earlier in one of our earlier chats that I recently watched a documentary called I was going to say I Am Not a Virus. It's not called I Am Not a Virus. It's called My Octopus Teacher. If we go to the next slide. Yeah, so it's this. If you've not seen it, it won Best Documentary of the Year. It won the Oscars for it. And it really, like, I think there's no film that really inspired me about nature and the environment as much as that. And it was really the relationship between an octopus and a human being, told in a very beautiful way. This is Time Magazine's cover, I think right after my climate change, or before my climate change issue, in regards to the Antics shooting, where 6 Asian women were shot. And this piece is by Titus Kafar. Do look up his talk on TED. It really, I think the first time I watched it, it really made me tear. And he talks about how Black people are so underrepresented in art history. And when you go to art museums, you really don't see representation much. And if they are in art museums, they are usually represented this way. There would be slaves. So this was a painting that he repainted. It's originally by a Dutch painter called Frans Hasling. Let me get the name. Frans Hals from the 17th century. If you go to the next slide, on stage at TED, he actually paints over some of the figures in white linseed oil. And this is not to eradicate the other figures, because linseed oil after a while becomes transparent. But he did this, and it's called Shift Your Gaze, because he wanted people to shift their gaze and look at the slave behind, look at the boy behind, and really understand more about his background, about who he is, his hopes and dreams. And I think that these artworks like this really impact people and really show, I guess, the importance of representation and telling stories about people who are underrepresented. And this was his cover for Time in regards to the George Floyd killing. This is a movie that really inspired me as well. It's called The Big Sick, and it's about a boy, an Indian American and a white American girl who fall in love, and I guess the complications that come with interracial relationships. I'm not seeing. I think there's a bit of a glitch with the video right now. I'm not seeing the next slide. There's a bit of a glitch. Sorry, if you could go before.
Could we go back earlier to the?
Yeah. So that was a movie shown on HBO, but it's based off a true story. If you have time, take a look at it. But I guess closer to home, if you go to the next slide, a friend recently told me about this movie that I think has just it just came out in May in Hong Kong, and it's called My Indian Boyfriend. And I guess while we're talking about anti-Asian racism, I also want to talk about I guess racism within Asia and how we should really nib it in the bud when that happens. And this comedy talks about it, about I guess a Hong Kong Chinese girl who falls in love with an Indian Hong Kong guy and the complications that come out of it. So I guess I wanted to end my talk with this particular slide. Why I've decided to do this is because I clearly remember growing up. I think I was 8 or 9. I was with a bunch of girls, and we had to pick our favorite princess, Disney's princess. Who do you want to be? And everyone picked, Ariel was the most popular, followed by Belle. Those two are the most popular ones. And then it goes Cinderella and all that. And no one wanted to pick Mulan. I didn't want to pick Mulan as well. It felt like, Mulan was not cool. But I look back at it now and I go, oh my gosh, Mulan is so cool. I love her. She's my favorite Disney character because I relate to her so much. But at that time, it was like, I don't want to be associated to her. That was the feeling I felt as an 8 or 9 year old. And I think it's because of a few reasons. It is stereotypes of Asians portrayed by Hollywood over the years. And I'm so glad that the media is starting to show more representation of Asians in Hollywood, in the media. And it's so important that we as individuals and also leaders, that we call out racism when that happens, that we condemn racism, and that we encourage and show each other the beauty of unity and living together. Thank you.
Thank you, Red. And I can see we have a fantastic production team behind the scenes. They were like a tag team, going with the slides and going with the slides. Hey, my friends, all of you on the virtual community, first of all, we planned this. Red and I, we had a good chat. So Red, thank you. You were spot on. And, the amount of notes that I have written all over my pad. And by the way, I want to say it on record, Mulan is one of my favorite characters. I've seen the older version. I've seen the new version. There's a lot of chat and there's a lot of discussion about, getting the story right and all that. But, so I think sometimes people forget it's a movie. It's meant to be a vehicle to spark discussion and to go deeper. But Red, thank you so much. We're just checking the clock here. And before I do my midpoint sharing, I thought very quickly, I want to launch us off into this segment. I call this time to call it out for what it is, which is what, Red, you talked about towards the end of your sharing about racism even within Asia, and we nip it in the bud. So picking up on what you shared, I just want to go a little bit deeper there. They're calls by people who have experienced anti-Asian hate firsthand, saying it's time to call it out. What are your thoughts on that?
I think the time is now. I think it's so important to have momentum to call issues like this that are so serious and that have been really damaging for a lot of people. And this should stop. And I think this shouldn't stop at just, I guess, Asians in the West, but also here in Asia. Within Malaysia itself, within Singapore, we are, I guess, as Chinese and Malaysian, I am probably not discriminated as much as other groups, and I think if that happens, it should be called out immediately.
Thank you so much. I mean, listening carefully, that's why we wanted to make time for Red to share her journey from Sabah, Malaysia, beautiful island of Borneo, to Australia where you studied, and then when you went off to Shanghai, and then you actually had a visa to go off to the States, but you're holding fort for right now. So that life journey of yours. But what is surprising when I did my research myself, there are opposing voices, let's just call them the other people. They actually are surprised when we talk about anti-Asian antics. Why is that? Why are people surprised? Is it because they're being evasive or in some sort of denialism? What do you think?
I guess my first thought is who are those people and where are they from? If they're, are you talking about people in the West or in Asia?
Well, I'm talking about people in Asia. Even in Asia itself, some people feel, that's not a big issue. Why discuss it to such a big extent?
Right.
And I'm just putting it out there.
I think it could be two things. This is just an assumption right now, but I think it could be because it's not relatable. I mean, when we switch on TV, it's Asians on the screen. We don't relate to, I think, the struggles that Asians in the West are feeling when they are a minority and underrepresented and grow up not seeing themselves on the screen or typecasted on screen and stereotyped. So the last 4 years, I've spent a lot of time in LA specifically. And I think when Crazy Rich Asians came out, I thought, oh, what's the big deal? You know, we watch a lot of movies here in Asia with Asians. But it wasn't until I was there and I saw, I think it was Gemma Chan, who is one of the, I guess, the leading roles in Crazy Rich Asians. And she was on a giant billboard. And I felt emotional. And I thought, oh my gosh, if I felt emotional about that, how about actual Asian Americans who grew up there and actually seeing a face like that on the big screen, not on the big screen, but on a billboard like that. So that really struck me that day.
All right. We're going to definitely delve deeper, and we've got a couple of more questions, but let me just do a quick recap. So for those of you who are joining us, you're watching the LCCS's REALink 2021. It's a virtual conversation series where we share on pertinent societal issues, and we do our best to bring communities together. And this year's theme, Rebuilding the Community. I'm Augustine Aswan, and you obviously watching and listening to Red Hong Yi from originally from Sabah, Malaysia, right now speaking to us live from Kuala Lumpur. Our topic today, breaking down anti-Asian antics. Now, this entire REALink conversation series is also an LCCS fundraising campaign. So we'd like to seek your support to give a donation, to use the QR code at the bottom of the screen, as well as the comment section, and you'll be glad to know that your donation is eligible for one-to-one matching, as REALink is part of the Tote Board Enhanced Fundraising Program. So every donation above $10 is eligible for a 250% tax deduction. And all donations go towards supporting LCCS and empowering and engaging individuals and families to build and restore relationships. And as you watched us from the very beginning, you saw some of the videos about the work that LCCS does. And do log in to the website details, or you can just talk to the LCCS team. They're all standing by to help you in the comment section. Any questions, comments that you have, just put it right there, and Red and we will pick it up. Right now, back to Red. So if we carry on from that point about denialism, I mean, some people feel, they're just rejecting the truth. From your sharing, from your expertise, your professional career, what would you say to these people?
I think probably some of the denialism is because it's very uncomfortable to talk about race. I think it's uncomfortable. I think when I got this topic, I was like, oh my gosh, that's it's not a comfortable topic, but it's a heavy one.
It's a heavy one, right?
Yeah, it's a loaded topic, but it has to be dealt with, and that was the same feeling I had when I created my art piece. I am not a virus, because it is, I knew that there would be comments and flack online. But this is the 21st century, and we have to deal with issues that are suppressing and oppressing certain groups living in the West or here. And I think it is important to I think, like Titus Kafar's piece mentioned just now, shift the gaze to other groups, because it is sad when a certain group is invisible or marginalized or oppressed, and it shouldn't be that way anymore today.
I think it's a beautiful segue to the next thing I'm going to raise, and I'm listening carefully to you, Red. You've used the word magical several times. I mean, that's the journalist in me. I literally can count. And you use another important phrase, which is connecting with people, not losing sight with that original mission, so to speak. So what would your response be for calls for people in the arts and the creative community like yourself to come together, to make a stand and to speak up? I mean, you're obviously doing that with the pieces that you've shared, which is, I mean, today we've only had a glimpse into the work that you do, but would you like to add on a bit more?
I think about myself and how my stance on certain issues have changed in the last 10 years. I think the person I was 10 years ago had different stances on several issues. But what made me change was really the awareness it brought, and the conversations, and it being highlighted in the arts. I think why I mentioned magical a couple of times is because I think art has this power to connect people emotionally, even spiritually. If you think about things that have really touched you, it's very likely a form of art that humans have created. It could be a movie, a song, a painting, but usually it's a creation in some type. It's very rarely is it data and numbers. So I believe that there is power in using the arts to use actual factual data and numbers and change it in a creative way to actually move and empower and inspire others.
Thank you. So, see, the earlier segment, I titled it Time to Call It Out for What It Is. The next segment, I'm calling it Repairing Our Humanity. And by the way, for the record, these are not my words. This is from the research that I did. And there were so many wonderful people who were writing about this issue. And I want to quote this one. Part of the nature of social media is that we are so surrounded by it and also all participating in it that it can feel in a lot of ways louder and more severe. But at the same time, you can do something about it, to change, to be that catalyst for change, as you said, Red. Could you expand on that?
Sorry, could you repeat that question again?
I mean, because we live our lives nowadays in the virtual social media world, there's sometimes people feel that these comments, these anti-Asian antics are so loud and so severe, but at the same time, we can do something about it and be the catalyst for change.
I think while social media has really connected us and allowed information to be shared, I think sometimes it is important to also filter it out. I remember, I think through the pandemic, I had to intentionally just switch off after a while, because it can be a bit of an echo chamber, and media also highlights the most sensationalized news. But while this is very a very important topic that all of us should be addressing. So yeah, I think at the same time, if there are any damaging comments online that are really affecting you, I would say, for me, I would personally ignore it unless it's constructive criticism.
So I want to go deeper. Arden Cho, whom you follow on Instagram, here's a quote from her IG post. Quote, "This racism is not new. It's just rarely covered in media, constantly overlooked, and now it's become normalized. Right. I'm sick of people looking at us as if we are the cause of COVID. I'm tired of racist remarks and comments." End of quote. What do you believe is the role of both mainstream media, I mean, they're still around, and the role of social media in countering this anti-Asian antics?
I think I think about the Facebook group Subtle Asian Traits right away, and it's such a strong group for Asians across the world. It's been very encouraging to see Asians post about all sorts of things, like relationships with, romantic relationships, relationships with family, and expectations and things like that. I think growing up, especially in the West, there was no kind of voice like that, but now there are groups like that online, and I think it's great to make people feel like they belong. But I guess when you spoke about that, it made me also think about this is kind of veering off a little bit, but it made me think about corporates as well. As I think in the US, I think last year there was an artist who called out a corporate. It was Microsoft, and I think the ad agency of Microsoft contacted her. This was during the Black Lives Matters movement, and she is I think a Black artist, and they said, can you create a mural while this is still relevant, something like that. I think the danger with that is a lot of corporates or even media, would go, let's tick the whole diversity, equity, and inclusivity box while it's relevant. And I think that's very dangerous, because it should be relevant the whole time, constantly. So that's just one example where I think there could be danger in jumping on something that's, I guess trendy, or that's trending right now. Even
absolutely, Red, and it's perfectly links back to what you shared. I like what you shared earlier about the war veterans in Malaysia, and everyone is the same when they were fighting for the country, and you deliberately remove their faces, right, to press home that point. I mean, that's a wonderful example that stayed with me. You want to add a little bit more about that? Why you did it that way?
Yeah, so I'm actually making that right now. So I was approached by the son of a veteran who really wanted to tell stories about his father and what he went through with his friends, with his fellow veterans. And I think when they were filming, interviewing these veterans, one of the questions was, so it was a scene where someone got hurt during the battlefield. And one of the questions by the director was, what race was that person? Something like that. And the veteran was really angry. He actually stamped his fist and he said, why does that even matter? We were fighting for the country. Why is this even relevant?
Why does it matter? Yes. Yeah. Thank you for adding on to that. I just got one more question in this segment, and it's so wonderful, but we're into the final 15 minutes of our broadcast here. This is another line that I picked up when I was doing research. Hate is learned. So how to unlearn hate? Short question.
I think traveling for me and getting to know people has opened up my eyes and perspective, because it makes me realize that everyone's the same. We all want the same things, even though, it may seem on the surface we don't. And the other thing that I forgot to mention earlier, and I don't mean to get political at all, is that Biden actually denounced publicly anti-Asian racism. And I think that's really important, to actually publicly denounce it when it happens. So I guess those are my thoughts around that.
Thank you for that. I mean, I just brought it up. We really wish we had more time, but there are a lot of good things that are happening in schools, even right down to little children in kindergartens, where that's the time where we bring people together. And feel free, Red, in the closing stretch, if you want to share anything, because your life's journey has brought you to different parts of the world. But in this last segment, I've titled it "Get Loud, We're With You." And I mean, it's really a trending hashtag, I stand with you. I was just wondering, and this is another quote from a young lady who's studying in California. She's a California native. Will all of you take a stand with us? The anti-Asian racism is not going to stop, but the more voices that I heard, the more people that stand up for the community, American Asians, Pacific Islanders community, that's in the US, and for us here in Asia, a change can be made. It will not happen overnight, but we can be the start. The ones that lay the foundation for the future of this country. And that's Shannon Kang. Shannon, maybe by a long shot you heard, I quoted you. It's from her blog, actually, and she's writing and she's studying and she's in California.
Wow.
But coming to you, Red, what are your thoughts? What would you like to see happening in your country, across Southeast Asia, and Asia, of course?
Yeah, I think that's so beautiful what Shannon wrote, and I was really touched by it. And in my lifetime, I do hope to see racism squashed. I think in Malaysia itself, racism is definitely a big issue that needs to be addressed, and we have to definitely have more understanding among races, and really respectfully live with each other, and I guess encourage each other. So yeah, I think if if racism happens, if anyone makes a racist remark, we have to address that. I'm not saying that I'm perfect. I think in the past, a friend even came up to me and said that I misused a word before, and I think I really appreciate that from that friend, because I wouldn't have known if I wasn't told as well. But it's also how we communicate it to others. I believe in. I don't believe in fighting fire. I believe in water and fire. So I think when we address it, we also have to be tactful in the way we address it too.
I like the way when you use words like believe, that, it shows that you have a strong position. I also wanted to ask you briefly, in your sharing at the beginning, you talked about the role of film and comedy, that Hong Kong example, my boyfriend is. What do you think about those sort of examples? We laugh over it and we forget, or can these be tools in the larger media as a catalyst for change?
Yeah, I think film is powerful, and if a topic like this can be communicated in comedy, that is great. I haven't seen the film yet, but I look forward to watching it. I watched a bit of the trailer, and I really enjoyed it. I guess before that, I talked about the Big Sick, and that was an American Indian man and a white American woman who fall in love, and they address a lot of I think from both backgrounds coming together, and the issues that I had to address, and it really, I guess, made me understand I guess the issue for both sides more than I guess than I would have. But it was done in a very comedic way, but there was serious themes in there as well.
Well, in these closing minutes, let's try to end our conversation within Asia. If someone walked up to you and say, "Hey, I saw you today on the LCCS virtual conversation, and you do all this fantastic, creative work, but you're also a creative professional, and you have your work. Do you feel you need to allocate time just to cover societal issues, or you would rather have the pick and choose kind of thing?" Because suddenly there's this surge of people lining up to say, "Oh, can you do this for us? Can you do this for us?"
I pick and choose, and I try to prioritize my personal projects. I really feel very grateful to be able to do that, but I strategically do that as well. In the first half of the year, I took up mostly commercial projects, and I do that so that the other 50% of it can be done in a way where I prioritize my own projects, and social projects are what I'm interested in. I want to, I guess, inspire and drive social change, and yeah, if I can do that, that would be such an honor as an artist.
Well, I have an unfair advantage over all our participants in the virtual conversation because I did so much homework on you, Red. Looking at all your projects, I don't want to pick a personal favorite, but I like the one that you did on the Teh Tarik man.
Oh, thank you.
For those who are not familiar, they may not know what Teh Tarik is if you're not Singaporean or Malaysian. But just taking that as an example, you see things around you in your environment, in your society. What would you say to other creative artistic professionals? What should they be open to be inspired so that they can also explore and perhaps do things like what you are doing, Red?
Oh, I think everyone has their own unique story to tell. It sounds cliche, but everyone has their own unique stories. Don't do it my way. Do it your own unique way, because you have your own voice and your own style that only you can tell, that your own background about how you grew up, tell that story. Someone out there can relate to it, and I think that would be a gift for the world.
All right. And then at this stage, I just want to do this special announcement before I totally forget and run out of time. I don't know whether you can see this, but as we come towards the closing end of our discussion today, we would also like to show our appreciation to you, Red, for joining us and sharing your time and your insights with us. So we're going to gift Red Hong Yi this set of cards made by the LCCS team. They're called Fables Talk. It's a collection of cards, and it'll be coming to you soon. Don't worry.
Oh, thank you so much.
I'm not too sure they're going to send it to you, probably post or courier, but it'll come, so look out for it. And we'll be sending this full set to you. But just to read here, it's a series of short stories coming back to the LCCS team's 7 core principles that they stand by, and some of which we have talked about it today. This relational inclusion approach, cultivating empathy with engagement, which you shared with so much of your work, especially those examples in China. And the stories also come with some light activities on the back for engagement. So LCCS will be publishing the Fables Talk in an e-version, and it'll be launched in August, but one coming to you soon, all right? But this is a small token as we give a thank you to you, Red, for sharing your time with all of us. And for those of you who are meeting Red Hong-Yi for the very first time, I mean, she has shared with you so many examples. This entire recording will be saved and kept on the LCCS website. Sorry, I should be looking at you because I keep looking at Red on this monitor here. So it'll be all on the website. So whatever Red shared with you, you can always go back and reference it and look up Red Hong-Yi and her work and her website. And I certainly am following her, and I will continue to follow you. But Red, we still have a few little minutes left. I've been doing a lot of research and raising questions, and you've answered everyone spontaneously and spot on. But is there a question Augustine has not raised that you feel should be raised and should be discussed? Please enlighten me and enlighten all of us. Is there anything else?
That came
putting the spot on you.
That came as a surprise. I don't know. I guess maybe I don't know. Maybe watch if you have time, because we're in lockdown. Some of those movies that I mentioned to have a watch.
I actually watched The Octopus Teacher.
Did you like it? Did you like it?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard work to do that one. I mean, I come from the media background myself. Perhaps briefly some learning points on why that spoke to you, and if you could, I mean, I know it's a hard call to kind of connect the dots to what we're talking about today.
Yeah, I think I just to preface, it's about a man. It's a documentary about this man who visits this octopus every single day. It sounds a little bit funny, kind of ridiculous, but it was just beautiful because he was going through a burnout at work. So he decided to dive, and he saw this octopus, and every day he met the octopus, and then they became friends. And I think it just shows so much that we don't know as humans as well. There was so much animal intelligence that I think that you don't think about until there's a film like this. And it made me think about the environment that these animals and so many other animals, or even us, are living in, and to really love things around us. So yeah, and I thought it was beautiful.
All right. So in these final minutes of our sharing, I just wanted to find out again that learning hate, that question that you said I posed, hate is learned, and how to unlearn hate. If you were to create some sort of a discussion handout for people to use after they've seen one of your artworks, one of your creative pieces, of all the works that you've created, and I'm sure people are going to look you up online, which one would you flag up as an example that you think could be used to spark discussion? Let's say a teacher uses one of your work pieces. By the way, I love the time-lapse videos. I always enjoy those time-lapse videos where I can see your creative work, just come out. Of course, it took much longer to produce it. But would you like to pick one? And we could use that for a discussion starter with young people or even with children.
I suppose I suppose it would probably be the I'm Not a Virus series, because it directly addresses that, and there are a lot of I think there are a lot of important discussions that should be discussed out of that. There was another piece that I forgot to include in the presentation. I think it was during the Black Lives Matter movement, and I created it's just two hands going like that, and then holding up a banner that says, I think it says "Stop Racism" in Chinese and in English, and I used black and white rice. So I just wanted to use, I guess, materials that I could find at home that represented different things, because rice is eaten universally, and I wanted to use these colors to represent several things. So I guess that one as well.
By the way, just to assure all of you in the virtual community, none of this is rehearsed. So quite a few times I put Red on the spot by just putting those questions to her, and I love that last thing that you said, rice. I don't know, maybe you've worked with it, or it might be the inspiration for your next, but rice is one thing that brings many of us together in Asia in terms of that commonality, right? But we do need to gradually bring this to a close. So, Red, you've been our special guest for today, and our topic, in case you haven't heard it by now, breaking down anti-Asian antics. Your parting thoughts, anything you'd like to leave with all of us. And I'm going to hold you to your word. I hope to have you back on a part 2 somewhere down the line.
Nice. I just wanted to thank LCCS, Augustine, the team, and for everyone for tuning in. I have an idealistic heart, and I believe that I think with more understanding and with more awareness, we will be able to build a better future. And let's do it together. That's
a wonderful way to put it, and we'll pause it there. We're not going to say it's the end, but that's about the time we have for today's discussion. Please join me in thanking Red Hong Yi for her sharing. I mean, in the hearing impact community, we clap this way rather than actually physically clapping, right? So we clap, and we thank all of you for your participation. By the way, keep those comments and questions coming in, and do remember that this is also a fundraising initiative. We have created a range of topics, and it's amazing how these topics are unfolding. We started with collective impact, and I certainly learned a lot, and today I'm learning so much just following the work of Red Hong Yi and the creative pieces that she's working on, and the pieces that are coming. And so you can support LCCS and the project work that they do by donating through the QR code that's at the bottom of your screen, and of course the links are in the comment section. And we also want to call your attention to our next REALink virtual conversation, which is happening on Friday, the 9th of July at 2 p.m. Friday, 9th July, 2 p.m. Our guest speaker is Paul Shoemaker, and we will be discussing corporate social responsibility, CSR, making it work for companies big and small. So it's interesting what you shared, Red. You talked about corporates briefly and what private sector can do and should be doing, and the thread is unfolding. So once again, can we say thank you to Red? Red, thank you so much. Keep safe, and please continue to inspire us with your wonderful work, and we will definitely follow you. And do follow all of us here in LCCS. Until then, thank you so much.
Thank you.
The LCCS team, the production crew, from all of us here, we're simply going to say the journey continues. Any final bye-byes from you, Red?
No, just thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Red. So I'm Augustine Antoine. Thanks for being with us on the REALink Virtual Conversation Series. Bye, everybody, and see you soon. Bye, Red.